I had never imagined that my life could unravel so quickly. It was a Wednesday afternoon, and I had decided to leave work early, hoping to surprise Laura with a romantic dinner. As I walked up the steps to our home, a strange sense of foreboding settled over me. Little did I know that today would mark the beginning of the end. When I opened the door, the scene that greeted me was one straight out of a nightmare. Laura and Chris Reed were tangled together in our bed, oblivious to the world outside. I froze for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest as I took in the shocking sight. Chris, a successful lawyer with an air of confidence that always grated on me, looked up in surprise. Laura's face went pale as she scrambled to cover herself. "What the hell is going on?" My voice came out as a strained whisper, but the intensity of my anger made it feel like a roar. Laura's eyes were filled with tears as she fumbled for words. "Jack, Save it," I interrupted, my tone icy. "I don't want to hear any excuses." Chris, sensing the escalating situation, quickly gathered his clothes and slipped out of the room. Laura tried to reach out to me, but I backed away, unable to process the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. I stormed out of the house, desperate for fresh air. I needed to clear my head, but the streets offered no solace. My mind raced with thoughts of betrayal, anger, and confusion. The sight of Laura with another man was burned into my memory, and I couldn't shake the feeling of profound hurt. As evening fell, I found myself standing in front of the old house I had always dreamed of renovating. I had bought it years ago with the hope of moving in someday, but the dream had been shelved as life took its course. Now, as I stood there, I saw it as a refuge from the pain that threatened to consume me. With a heavy heart, I decided to immerse myself in the renovation. Maybe the physical labor would distract me from the emotional wreckage. I grabbed my tools and set to work, determined to lose myself in the process. As the days turned into weeks, the house began to take shape. It was a welcome diversion from the turmoil that had upended my life. One day, while cleaning out the attic, I stumbled upon a dusty box. Curious, I opened it to find a collection of old letters. The envelopes were yellowed with age, and the handwriting was elegant but unfamiliar. As I began to read, I realized these letters were between Laura and Chris, revealing a side of their relationship that I had never known. The letters spoke of secrets and manipulations, of plans made behind closed doors. They detailed their schemes and deceit, showing a side of both Laura and Chris that was far from the image they had portrayed. The discovery was a bitter pill to swallow, but it also sparked a new determination within me. Instead of wallowing in self-pity, I resolved to focus on something constructive. I put the house up for sale and began planning my move to a new city. I wanted a fresh start, a chance to rebuild my life away from the shadows of my past. However, as fate would have it, I soon learned that Laura and Chris were planning to start a joint business in the very area where I was moving. The irony was not lost on me, and a new idea began to take shape. If they were going to continue their lives as if nothing had happened, I would make sure their plans faced significant hurdles. With a newfound sense of purpose, I set out to gather information and find ways to undermine their business venture. I would use everything I had learned from the letters to ensure that their new life was as challenging as the one they had tried to destroy. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was ready. I had a plan, and I was determined to see it through. Little did I know that my quest for revenge would lead me to unexpected success and a new beginning, far from the pain that had once defined my life. As I packed up the last of my belongings from the old house, a sense of finality settled over me. The house that had once symbolized hope and a fresh start now felt like a relic of a painful past. I had decided to sell it and move to a new city. But the thought of Laura and Chris Reed establishing their business in my new area nagged at me. I couldn't just let them move forward without a challenge. The day I officially relocated, I arrived in my new city with mixed feelings. It was both exciting and overwhelming. My new apartment was modest but comfortable, and it was a far cry from the life I had left behind. As I unpacked, I began to devise a plan to deal with Laura and Chris's business venture. My first step was to learn more about their plans. Laura and Chris had been making headlines for their ambitious new project, and I needed to know every detail I could uncover. I reached out to a few local contacts and began to gather information about their business model and any potential weaknesses. One key piece of information I discovered was that their business was scheduled to open in a newly developed area that was still attracting investment. The district was known for its rapid growth but also had some unresolved issues related to zoning and local regulations. This was where I saw an opportunity to make an impact. I decided to focus on creating doubt about the viability of their chosen location. I began by contacting local business owners and subtly mentioning concerns about the district's infrastructure and regulatory issues. I didn't directly mention Laura and Chris but planted enough seeds of doubt to make potential investors hesitant. Simultaneously, I started digging into the background of their business. Using the information from the old letters, I investigated the companies and individuals they were collaborating with. I discovered several questionable partnerships and potentially illegal practices that could be leveraged against them. My next move was to build a dossier on these shady connections. I carefully documented any irregularities and collected evidence that could expose the flaws in their business practices. This involved long hours of research and discreet inquiries, but I was determined to see it through. During this period, I also made sure to keep a low profile. I didn't want Laura and Chris to suspect that I was actively working against them. I attended local events and mingled with people in the business community, all the while gathering more intelligence and preparing for the next phase of my plan. As the opening date for Laura and Chris's business drew closer, I felt a growing sense of anticipation. The groundwork had been laid, and the stage was set for a more direct confrontation. I was ready to put my plan into action and ensure that their new venture faced the obstacles it deserved. The day arrived when Laura and Chris's business was set to open its doors. The anticipation was palpable, and the local business community was buzzing with excitement about the new venture. I had been quietly observing their progress from the sidelines, but today was the day I planned to make my move. I decided to attend the grand opening event under the guise of a potential client. The venue was bustling with people, and the atmosphere was filled with the typical excitement of a new business launch. I mingled with the crowd, keeping a low profile while watching for any opportunity to make an impact. Laura was there, looking radiant and confident. She greeted guests with a forced smile, and I could tell that the facade of her new life was as carefully crafted as the business itself. Chris was by her side, working the room with his usual charm. They appeared to be in high spirits, oblivious to the storm that was about to hit. I used the opportunity to network with some of the attendees, subtly spreading the concerns I had previously mentioned. I spoke to a few potential investors and local business owners, making offhand comments about the issues I had uncovered with the district's infrastructure and zoning regulations. My goal was to create a ripple effect of doubt that would tarnish their reputation. As the evening progressed, I noticed that a group of journalists had arrived to cover the event. This was a prime opportunity to further my plan. I approached one of the reporters with a carefully crafted story about the potential risks associated with investing in the district. I hinted at some of the shady practices and partnerships that Laura and Chris had been involved in, without directly naming them. The journalist seemed intrigued and took notes, promising to look into the allegations further. I knew that the media coverage could amplify the doubts I had been planting, and I hoped it would generate enough negative publicity to hinder their business. The next few days were a whirlwind of media reports and local gossip. The concerns I had raised about the district's issues were picked up by several news outlets, and the negative press started to affect the perception of Laura and Chris's business. Local investors and clients began to question the viability of their venture, and the initial excitement started to wane. Laura and Chris were visibly stressed. I saw them at a few business meetings and noticed their growing frustration as they struggled to maintain their public image. They were clearly feeling the pressure, but I made sure to keep my distance and continue observing from afar. My efforts were paying off. But I knew that I needed to keep up the momentum. I continued to gather and leak more information about their business dealings, making sure that their challenges continued to escalate. The more I could complicate their situation, the more likely they were to falter. As their business faced mounting difficulties, I began to see the fruits of my labor. The once promising venture was now plagued by setbacks and skepticism. It was a satisfying, if somewhat bittersweet, victory. My initial plan of revenge was succeeding. But it was also clear that my actions had broader implications. I took a moment to reflect on the journey so far. The pain of betrayal had driven me to take drastic measures, but the process of enacting my plan had also allowed me to focus on my own growth and new beginnings. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I was determined to see it through and ensure that Laura and Chris faced the consequences of their actions. The opening chapter of their business had been marred by the shadow of doubt I had cast. The next steps would be crucial, and I was prepared to continue my efforts, ensuring that their plans faced the full brunt of my calculated sabotage. The weeks following the grand opening were tumultuous for Laura and Chris. The negative press and growing skepticism had taken a toll on their business, and it was clear that their initial enthusiasm had given way to frustration. I continued to monitor their situation, and while it was gratifying to see their struggles, I remained focused on my own goals. As I settled into my new life, I found myself unexpectedly drawn into the local business community. My initial intent had been to undermine Laura and Chris's venture, but the process had inadvertently opened up new opportunities for me. I had been networking and making connections under the guise of exploring business prospects, and to my surprise, several doors began to open. One evening, I was approached by a local entrepreneur who had heard about my interest in starting a business. He offered me a chance to invest in a promising startup that was gaining traction in the area. The offer was both exciting and unexpected. It was an opportunity to dive into a new venture and possibly find success in a field I had not previously considered. I took a calculated risk and invested in the startup. The timing was fortuitous, the company was on the verge of launching a groundbreaking product, and my involvement provided the financial boost it needed. As the startup gained momentum, so did my role within it. I was soon involved in key decision-making processes and began to see tangible results from my investment. The success of the startup was a turning point for me. Not only was I gaining financial stability, but I also found myself in a position of influence within the local business community. My new venture started to thrive, and I began to enjoy the fruits of my hard work and strategic decisions. Meanwhile, Laura and Chris's business continued to struggle. The negative publicity had created a lasting impact. And despite their efforts to salvage the situation, their venture faced ongoing setbacks. It was clear that their plans had been significantly derailed, and their ability to recover seemed increasingly doubtful. As my own success grew, I found a new sense of purpose and satisfaction. The bitterness of betrayal began to fade as I focused on the positive aspects of my new life. I was building something from the ground up and seeing real results, which was a stark contrast to the chaos I had left behind. One day, as I reviewed the latest reports from the startup, I received an unexpected call from a business associate. The person had insights into additional opportunities that could further enhance my success. The conversation was filled with potential, and I realized that my new life was unfolding in ways I hadn't anticipated. Reflecting on the journey, I saw how the challenges I had faced had led to a series of fortunate events. My initial aim of revenge had evolved into something more constructive. The setbacks I had caused for Laura and Chris's business were just one part of a broader narrative. My own achievements were now shaping a new chapter in my life. As I continued to build my new business and explore additional opportunities, I felt a growing sense of fulfillment. The pain of the past had driven me to take drastic measures, but it had also propelled me toward unexpected success. I was no longer defined by the betrayal I had experienced. Instead, I was forging a new path, leaving the past behind and embracing a future full of promise and potential. The road ahead was still filled with challenges, but I was prepared to face them with the same determination that had guided me through this journey. My new life was taking shape, and with each step forward, I found comfort and happiness in the fresh start I had so desperately sought. With my new business venture thriving, I was beginning to feel a sense of stability and accomplishment that had eluded me for so long. The startup was gaining traction, and my involvement was proving to be more than just a financial investment. It was becoming a significant part of my identity and purpose. However, the past was never far behind. Despite the success I was experiencing, I couldn't shake the lingering presence of Laura and Chris's plans. I knew that their business was faltering, but I also knew that their ambitions had not entirely been derailed. They were still determined to make a comeback, and I needed to stay vigilant. One afternoon, while working on a project for the startup, I received a tip from a business contact. The tip was about a new development. Laura and Chris were reportedly planning to launch a new venture in a different part of the city. It seemed they were trying to escape the negative press and start fresh, hoping to salvage their reputations. I was taken aback by the news. The thought of them potentially finding a new foothold in the city was unsettling. I had hoped that their failed venture would be enough to put an end to their plans. But it seemed that their resilience was stronger than I had anticipated. Determined not to let their resurgence go unchecked, I decided to investigate further. I learned that their new venture was focused on a different industry, one that could potentially leverage the contacts and resources they had acquired previously. This new direction was a strategic move to capitalize on their existing network and reputation, even if it meant starting from scratch. I knew I needed to act quickly to prevent this new venture from gaining momentum. Drawing on the knowledge I had gathered from their previous business dealings, I began to uncover potential issues with their new plans. I looked into their new partners, suppliers, and business strategies, seeking any weaknesses that could be exploited. As I delved deeper, I discovered some troubling patterns. The new venture was built on shaky foundations, with several questionable partnerships and a lack of transparency in their business model. I gathered as much evidence as I could, documenting any irregularities that could undermine their efforts. At the same time, I continued to focus on my own business, ensuring that it remained successful and continued to grow. My new role in the startup had become a source of pride and satisfaction, and I was determined to make the most of this opportunity. It was clear that my success was not just about revenge, it was about building a new future for myself. One day, as I was reviewing the latest developments, I received an unexpected offer. A prominent investor was interested in a partnership that could significantly boost my business. The offer was enticing, and it presented an opportunity to take my venture to new heights. It was a reminder that while I was preoccupied with Laura and Chris's new plans, my own journey was unfolding in remarkable ways. With the evidence I had collected, I decided to take a strategic approach. I reached out to key influencers and stakeholders in the industry, subtly sharing the concerns and issues I had uncovered about Laura and Chris's new venture. My aim was to create a barrier that would prevent their new plans from gaining traction. As the weeks went by, it became apparent that my efforts were having an impact. The negative publicity surrounding Laura and Chris's new venture began to surface, and their attempts to rebuild their business faced mounting challenges. Their resurgence was proving to be more difficult than anticipated. Reflecting on the journey so far, I felt a sense of satisfaction and closure. The path I had taken was unexpected, but it had led me to a place of success and fulfillment. The pain of betrayal had been transformed into a driving force for positive change in my life. I had managed to not only overcome the challenges that had once seemed insurmountable but also to carve out a new future for myself. The past was behind me, and with each passing day, I embraced the new opportunities that lay ahead, ready to build a life defined by success and contentment. As the days turned into weeks, Laura and Chris's new venture continued to face difficulties. The negative press I had helped generate, combined with the mounting issues within their business model, had taken a toll. However, their resilience and determination to succeed kept them pushing forward. I knew that if I wanted to ensure their failure, I needed to take one final step in my plan. I decided to intensify my efforts by targeting the specific weaknesses I had discovered in their new venture. My research had revealed several key issues: unstable supplier relationships, legal disputes, and questionable financial practices. Each of these areas presented an opportunity to further undermine their business. My first move was to focus on their supplier network. Using the information I had gathered, I reached out to some of their key suppliers under the pretense of being a potential new client. I subtly raised concerns about the reliability and ethics of their current partners, planting seeds of doubt. I hoped that by creating uncertainty among their suppliers, I could disrupt their supply chain and further strain their operations. Next, I turned my attention to the legal issues. I worked with a contact who specialized in business law and provided them with detailed information about the legal disputes and questionable practices associated with Laura and Chris's venture. I encouraged them to investigate further and, if necessary, take action. The goal was to escalate these issues into full-blown legal problems that could jeopardize their business. I also focused on the financial side of their operations. I reached out to some of their financial backers and shared my concerns about the transparency of their financial practices. By highlighting potential red flags and inconsistencies, I aimed to create distrust among their investors and undermine their financial support. As I executed these steps, I continued to observe their business from a distance. Laura and Chris were visibly stressed, and their attempts to address the various issues seemed increasingly desperate. It was clear that the pressure was taking a significant toll on them. One evening, I received a call from an old friend who worked in the media. They informed me that there was a growing interest in exposing corruption and unethical practices within the business community. Seizing the opportunity, I provided them with the evidence I had collected, including the details of Laura and Chris's questionable practices. The story quickly gained traction, and soon, the media was buzzing with reports about their troubled business and the ethical concerns surrounding it. The media exposure was the final blow to Laura and Chris's venture. The negative press, coupled with the mounting legal and financial troubles, created a perfect storm that threatened to bring their business to its knees. Their efforts to salvage the situation were in vain, and it became apparent that their new venture was on the brink of collapse. As I watched the events unfold, I felt a sense of completion. My initial goal of revenge had evolved into a broader mission of ensuring that Laura and Chris faced the consequences of their actions. It wasn't just about personal satisfaction anymore. It was about addressing the wrongdoing and making sure their ambitions didn't come to fruition. In the midst of their downfall, I found myself reflecting on my own journey. The path I had taken had led me to unexpected success and fulfillment. My new business was thriving, and I had built a life that was both rewarding and promising. With Laura and Chris's plans in tatters, I felt a sense of closure. The final act of revenge had been achieved, and I was ready to move forward with a renewed focus on my own future. The past was behind me, and the lessons I had learned had shaped me into a stronger, more resilient individual. As I continued to build on my success, I embraced the opportunities that lay ahead with optimism and determination. The journey had been arduous, but it had ultimately led to a new beginning, a chance to create a life defined by accomplishment and happiness. The past was now a distant memory, and I looked forward to the future with a sense of fulfillment and peace. Months had passed since Laura and Chris's new venture collapsed under the weight of negative publicity and legal troubles. My life had settled into a routine of success and satisfaction, with my business continuing to thrive. I had managed to create a new chapter for myself, one that was far removed from the pain of the past. Yet, fate had a way of throwing curveballs, and I wasn't prepared for what was about to happen next. One morning, while reviewing some financial reports, I received an unexpected email. The subject line simply read, "Important news about Laura and Chris." Curious, I opened it to find a message from an anonymous sender. The email contained documents that suggested Laura and Chris were planning to launch yet another business, this time, a charitable foundation aimed at rebuilding their public image and rectifying the damage done by their previous failures. The foundation was purportedly designed to support local communities and address social issues. On the surface, it seemed like a noble endeavor, but the documents I received hinted at deeper, more sinister motives. It appeared that Laura and Chris intended to use the foundation as a front to regain their influence and potentially launder money from their previous ventures. The news was both surprising and concerning. Despite the satisfaction I had felt from their previous downfall, the thought of them manipulating public perception and exploiting a charitable cause troubled me. I knew I couldn't just ignore this new development. If Laura and Chris succeeded in their scheme, they could potentially come back stronger and more dangerous than before. I decided to investigate the charitable foundation further. Using the information from the email, I dug into their plans and the individuals involved. The more I uncovered, the more it became clear that the foundation was not what it seemed. The documents revealed connections to dubious organizations and individuals with questionable backgrounds. Realizing the gravity of the situation, I contacted a few trusted contacts in the media and law enforcement. I shared the information I had gathered and expressed my concerns about the potential misuse of the foundation. My aim was to ensure that their new venture didn't escape scrutiny and that any illegal activities were exposed. As the investigation into the foundation gained traction, I found myself once again in the spotlight, albeit in a different role. The media began to report on the questionable activities associated with Laura and Chris's new endeavor. The scrutiny and pressure began to mount, and it wasn't long before authorities got involved. Laura and Chris were forced to confront the fallout from their latest venture. The foundation, which had been intended to rehabilitate their image, became a symbol of their continued deceit. The legal and financial repercussions were swift, and their attempts to salvage their reputation were in vain. Watching the situation unfold, I felt a mix of emotions. On one hand, I was relieved to see that their manipulative schemes were being exposed. On the other hand, I was reminded of the extent to which their actions had impacted my own life and the lives of others. The past had a way of resurfacing, and the consequences of their actions were far-reaching. With Laura and Chris's latest venture unraveling, I focused on my own path. The experience had taught me valuable lessons about resilience, integrity, and the complexities of human behavior. I continued to build my business and embrace new opportunities, determined to leave behind the shadow of my past. The unexpected twist in Laura and Chris's saga served as a reminder of the unpredictable nature of life. Even as I moved forward, I remained vigilant and committed to ensuring that justice was served. The journey had been arduous, but it had ultimately led to a place of strength and clarity. As I looked ahead, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The past had shaped me, but it no longer defined me. The lessons learned and the successes achieved had created a foundation for a bright future. With each step forward, I embraced the opportunities that lay ahead, ready to continue building a life marked by achievement and fulfillment. With Laura and Chris's new venture thoroughly exposed and their attempts to rehabilitate their image failing spectacularly, I found myself in a position of reflection and new opportunity. The closure of their latest scheme left me with a sense of finality and allowed me to focus fully on my own path forward. The media frenzy around Laura and Chris had died down, and with it, the remnants of my involvement in their downfall. My own business had reached a stable point, and the startup I had invested in was flourishing. The success of the business was not just a personal victory but a testament to the resilience and hard work that had guided me through a tumultuous period. One day, while attending a networking event, I was approached by a seasoned entrepreneur named Emma Carter. She had heard about my recent successes and was impressed by the growth and impact of my venture. Emma proposed a collaboration on a new project that combined elements of technology and social impact, a venture that aligned with my interests and values. The proposal was intriguing. Emma's project aimed to develop innovative solutions for social issues, blending cutting-edge technology with community-focused initiatives. It was an opportunity to contribute to something meaningful while leveraging my business acumen and experience. The project promised to be both challenging and rewarding, and I felt a renewed sense of purpose at the prospect. After several meetings and discussions, Emma and I decided to move forward with the collaboration. We assembled a team of experts and began working on the project, which quickly gained momentum. The venture was met with enthusiasm from both investors and the community, and it began to make a tangible difference in addressing some pressing social issues. As the project progressed, I found myself deeply engaged and inspired. The work was fulfilling in a way that went beyond financial success. It was a chance to make a positive impact, to contribute to causes that mattered, and to build something that had the potential to change lives. Meanwhile, my personal life also began to take shape. The pain of the past had faded, and I had made peace with the experiences that had once been so painful. The lessons learned from my journey had made me stronger and more empathetic. I found myself embracing new relationships and building a supportive network of friends and colleagues. One evening, as I reflected on the journey that had led me to this point, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. The challenges I had faced, the decisions I had made, and the successes I had achieved had all contributed to a life that was both meaningful and satisfying. The story of Laura and Chris had come to an end, but its impact had shaped my path in unexpected ways. The final chapter of their saga had been a reminder of the complexities of human ambition and the consequences of deceit. It had also reinforced the importance of integrity and resilience in overcoming adversity. As I looked to the future, I was filled with optimism and excitement. The new project with Emma and the continued growth of my business represented a bright and promising horizon. The past had been a teacher, and the present was a canvas for new opportunities and experiences. With each passing day, I embraced the journey with a sense of purpose and fulfillment. The road ahead was filled with possibilities, and I was ready to explore them with confidence and determination. The chapter of my life marked by betrayal and revenge had given way to one of growth, achievement, and hope. As my new venture continued to gain momentum, and my life settled into a satisfying rhythm, I was confronted with an unexpected twist that I hadn't anticipated. The past, it seemed, was not finished with me just yet. One sunny afternoon, while working on the new project with Emma, I received a message that made my heart skip a beat. It was from an old friend who had kept in touch with both Laura and Chris over the years. The message was brief but startling. "Laura wants to see you. She says she's changed and wants to explain everything." I stared at the message, my mind racing. After everything that had transpired, the idea of meeting Laura again was both unsettling and intriguing. I hadn't spoken to her since the collapse of her latest venture and had hoped to leave the past behind. Yet, there was something about the message that made me reconsider. After a moment of contemplation, I decided to meet with Laura. I felt that I needed closure, not just for my sake but to fully move on from the shadows of the past. I agreed to a meeting at a quiet cafe, a neutral setting that would provide a safe space for the conversation. The day of the meeting arrived, and as I walked into the cafe, I saw Laura sitting at a table near the window. She looked different, more subdued and reflective. We greeted each other with a mixture of formality and wariness. As we sat down, I could sense a tension in the air. Laura started the conversation by apologizing for everything that had happened. She spoke candidly about the mistakes she and Chris had made, acknowledging the harm they had caused not only to me but to others as well. Her words were heartfelt, and she seemed genuinely remorseful. "I've had a lot of time to think about my actions," Laura said, her voice trembling slightly. "I know I hurt you deeply, and I'm truly sorry for that. I've been working to make amends and rebuild my life, but I understand if you can't forgive me." Her admission was a shock. I had expected defensiveness or excuses, but instead, I was met with raw honesty. The conversation continued as Laura shared her struggles and the lessons she had learned from her experiences. She spoke about her attempts to make things right and her commitment to personal growth. As I listened, I found myself grappling with a mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to hold on to the anger and resentment I had felt for so long, but another part of me recognized the sincerity in her words. The encounter was forcing me to confront feelings and perspectives I had tried to bury. "I appreciate your honesty, Laura," I finally said. "It's clear that you've been through a lot. I've moved on from the past and built a new life for myself, one that I'm proud of. But hearing you speak like this makes me see that we all have the capacity to change." Our conversation continued, and we talked about the impact of the past on our lives. Laura's journey of self-discovery and growth was evident, and I began to understand the person she had become. It wasn't about absolving her of her past actions but acknowledging the progress she had made. By the end of our meeting, there was a sense of closure. Laura's apology and the conversation had provided a level of resolution that I hadn't expected. I realized that forgiving her, or at least coming to terms with what had happened, was part of my own healing process. As we parted ways, there was a newfound sense of peace between us. The past was no longer a barrier but a lesson that had shaped both of our lives. I walked away from the meeting feeling lighter, ready to embrace the future with a clearer perspective. Laura's unexpected return had been a reminder that life was full of twists and turns. The encounter had brought closure and allowed me to fully embrace the new chapter of my life. With the past behind me, I continued to focus on the present and the promising future that lay ahead. The journey had been long and filled with challenges, but it had ultimately led me to a place of growth and fulfillment. As I moved forward, I carried with me the lessons learned and the strength gained from overcoming adversity. The future was bright, and I was ready to face it with optimism and hope. The meeting with Laura had provided a sense of closure, but life had its way of keeping me engaged with unexpected developments. With my past more settled, I turned my focus to the promising future that awaited. My business was thriving, and my collaboration with Emma on the social impact project was proving to be both rewarding and successful. The new project had garnered significant attention and support, and we were making strides in developing technology that could genuinely benefit communities. The work was fulfilling, and the impact we were making was tangible. I felt a deep sense of accomplishment as we reached milestones and saw the positive changes taking shape. One afternoon, as I was preparing for a major presentation on our project's progress, I received an invitation to a charity gala. The event was being hosted by a prominent organization that supported various social causes, including the ones our project was addressing. Emma encouraged me to attend, seeing it as an opportunity to network and gain further support for our initiative. The night of the gala arrived, and the venue was elegantly decorated. The atmosphere was filled with anticipation and excitement as guests arrived, each contributing to the cause in their own way. Emma and I mingled with other attendees, discussing our project and sharing our vision with potential supporters. During the event, I noticed a familiar face across the room. It was someone from my past, a former colleague named Jack Reynolds. We hadn't seen each other in years, and the sight of him brought back a flood of memories. Jack had been a mentor and a friend during my early career, and we had lost touch over the years. I approached Jack, and we exchanged warm greetings. As we caught up, I shared the recent developments in my life and the success of the project I was working on. Jack was genuinely impressed and expressed interest in learning more about our work. Our conversation shifted to more personal topics, and Jack revealed that he had recently retired from his previous career and was exploring new opportunities. He mentioned his interest in philanthropy and social impact, which aligned perfectly with the focus of our project. As the evening progressed, Jack and I continued our conversation, and he expressed a desire to contribute to our cause. His experience and connections in the philanthropic world could provide valuable support and open new doors for our initiative. I was excited about the prospect of working with him and welcomed his involvement. The gala ended on a high note, and the event was a success in raising awareness and funds for various causes. Emma and I left the venue with a sense of accomplishment and optimism about the future. The night had not only provided valuable connections but had also strengthened our commitment to making a positive impact. In the days following the gala, Jack and I began working together on our project. His expertise and network proved to be invaluable as we navigated new opportunities and expanded our reach. The collaboration was a testament to the power of reconnecting with the past and finding new ways to build a better future. As the project continued to grow, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought me to this point. The twists and turns of life had led me through challenges and triumphs, and each experience had shaped me into the person I had become. The lessons learned and the connections made had all contributed to a fulfilling and meaningful life. With the support of new allies and the strength of our team, the project moved forward with renewed energy and purpose. The future was bright, and the possibilities seemed endless. I embraced each new opportunity with enthusiasm, knowing that the journey was far from over. The new chapter of my life was unfolding with excitement and promise. The past had been a teacher, and the present was a canvas for creating positive change. As I continued to build on the success of our project and explore new ventures, I looked forward to the future with hope and determination. The road ahead was filled with potential, and I was ready to embrace it with open arms. The months following the gala and the start of my collaboration with Jack were filled with rapid progress and exciting developments. Our project was gaining momentum, and the positive feedback from the community and stakeholders was encouraging. It was clear that the work we were doing was making a real difference. One day, as I was reviewing the latest reports and preparing for an upcoming presentation, Emma approached me with some exciting news. She had secured a meeting with a major investor interested in supporting our project. The investor, a well-known philanthropist named Alexander Hayes, had a reputation for backing innovative and impactful ventures. The news was exhilarating. Alexander Hayes' support could significantly accelerate our progress and enhance the project's reach. Emma and I spent the next few days preparing thoroughly for the meeting, ensuring we had all the necessary information and a compelling presentation. The day of the meeting arrived, and we were welcomed into a sleek, modern office where Alexander Hayes awaited us. He was a distinguished figure with a keen interest in social impact initiatives. As we presented our project, highlighting its achievements and future goals, Alexander listened intently, asking insightful questions and providing thoughtful feedback. At the end of the presentation, Alexander expressed his admiration for our work and proposed a substantial investment in our project. His support would not only provide the financial resources needed to expand our efforts but also bring valuable credibility and visibility. The offer was a game changer. With Alexander's backing, we could enhance our technology, reach more communities, and make an even greater impact. Emma and I were thrilled and immediately accepted the investment, eager to move forward with the enhanced support. As we implemented the new resources and expanded our project, the results were even more impressive than we had anticipated. The technology we developed began to reach a broader audience, and the positive outcomes were evident in the communities we served. The project was now on a trajectory of significant growth and influence. With the success of our project, I also began to see new opportunities arising. My reputation as a successful entrepreneur and social impact advocate attracted further interest from various sectors. I was invited to speak at conferences, participate in panels, and collaborate with other organizations focused on similar goals. The increased visibility and connections opened doors to new ventures and partnerships. I was approached by several companies and nonprofits looking to collaborate on innovative projects. Each new opportunity was a chance to build on the success of our current work and explore new ways to make a difference. Despite the whirlwind of activity and the increasing demands on my time, I remained grounded and focused on the core mission of our project. The journey had taught me the importance of staying true to one's values and maintaining a clear sense of purpose. In my personal life, the sense of fulfillment and contentment continued to grow. The relationships I had built, both new and old, provided a strong support network and a sense of community. I was able to balance the demands of my professional life with the joys of my personal life, finding harmony and satisfaction in both areas. As I looked back on the path that had led me to this point, I marveled at the unexpected twists and turns that had shaped my journey. From the challenges of the past to the successes of the present, each experience had contributed to a richer and more meaningful life. The future seemed bright and full of promise. With the continued support of our partners and the momentum of our project, I was excited to see where the journey would lead next. The lessons learned and the achievements reached had laid a strong foundation for continued growth and impact. In this new chapter, I embraced the opportunities ahead with confidence and enthusiasm. The journey had been one of transformation and discovery, and I was ready to continue building a legacy of positive change and success. As my business flourished and my involvement in impactful projects continued to grow, I began to experience a sense of stability and fulfillment I hadn't felt in years. The unexpected success and the connections I'd made were exhilarating, but life had one more twist in store for me. One morning, while going through my emails, I noticed a message from a familiar name, Jessica Mitchell. Jessica was an old friend from college, someone I had lost touch with over the years. Her email was an invitation to a reunion event she was organizing for our college alumni. The event was to be held in a few weeks, and she wanted to reconnect and catch up. Curiosity and a touch of nostalgia prompted me to accept the invitation. The reunion promised to be a chance to reconnect with old friends and reflect on how much had changed since our college days. I was eager to see who would be there and how everyone had evolved. The night of the reunion arrived, and the venue was a charming, retro-themed hall that instantly brought back memories of our college years. The room was filled with laughter, music, and the buzz of excited conversations. I scanned the crowd, spotting familiar faces and reconnecting with several old friends. Jessica was radiant as she welcomed me. We quickly fell into conversation, reminiscing about our college experiences and catching up on each other's lives. She had been working in the nonprofit sector and had made significant strides in her career, focusing on education and community development. As the evening progressed, Jessica introduced me to several of her colleagues and friends, many of whom were involved in various social impact initiatives. One person in particular caught my attention, Mark Donovan, a former college classmate who had become a prominent figure in the tech industry and was now focused on using technology for social good. Mark and I struck up a conversation about our mutual interests in social impact and innovation. It was clear that we shared a passion for leveraging technology to address pressing issues. Our discussion was invigorating, and we decided to explore the possibility of collaborating on a project that combined our expertise. In the weeks following the reunion, Mark and I met to discuss potential ideas. We brainstormed various concepts and eventually settled on a project that aimed to develop an app to provide educational resources and support for underserved communities. The project aligned with my values and the goals of my existing initiatives, and I was excited about the prospect of working together. Jessica also played a role in the project, providing valuable insights and connections from her nonprofit background. With our combined expertise, we began developing the app, focusing on creating a platform that was user-friendly and impactful. As we progressed with the project, the sense of camaraderie and collaboration was both energizing and rewarding. Working with old friends and new allies brought a renewed sense of purpose and excitement to my work. The project began to take shape, and we received positive feedback from early testers and community leaders. In addition to the professional success, the personal connections I rekindled provided a deep sense of satisfaction. The reunion had not only allowed me to reconnect with old friends but had also opened doors to new opportunities and collaborations. The bonds formed during our college years had evolved into meaningful partnerships that continued to enrich my life. The project was a testament to the power of reconnecting with the past and building on shared values and experiences. It was a reminder that relationships and connections could lead to new beginnings and create positive change. As the app neared its launch date, I reflected on the journey that had brought me to this point. From the challenges of the past to the successes of the present, each experience had contributed to a richer and more fulfilling life. The sense of community and collaboration I experienced with Jessica, Mark, and others added a new dimension to my work and personal life. Looking ahead, I felt a renewed sense of excitement and purpose. The future was filled with possibilities, and I was eager to continue exploring new ventures and making a positive impact. The journey had been one of growth, transformation, and unexpected connections, and I was ready to embrace whatever came next with enthusiasm and hope. As my new project with Mark and Jessica gained traction, and my personal life seemed more stable and fulfilling, I thought I had left the past behind. However, fate had a way of bringing old challenges back into focus. One afternoon, while reviewing progress reports for the new app, I received a call from an old acquaintance, Thomas Davis. Thomas was a former business partner of Chris Reed, and we had crossed paths a few times during my previous ventures. Thomas wanted to meet to discuss something important and potentially urgent. Curious and a bit apprehensive, I agreed to the meeting. We arranged to meet at a cafe downtown, a place known for its quiet ambiance and discretion. When I arrived, Thomas was already there, sipping his coffee and waiting for me. After exchanging pleasantries and catching up, Thomas got straight to the point. He revealed that he had come across some troubling information about Chris Reed and Laura. They were not only planning to start a new business but were also making strategic moves to dominate the local market. Their new venture was set to launch soon, and it appeared that they were leveraging insider knowledge and resources to secure a competitive edge. The revelation was a shock. The fact that Laura and Chris were not only back in the same area but were also positioning themselves as major players in the market was troubling. I had hoped to move on from my past, but this new development threatened to undermine the stability I had worked so hard to achieve. Thomas proposed a plan to counteract their efforts. He suggested using my knowledge of their previous schemes and tactics to expose their unethical practices and disrupt their launch. While I had initially sought to move on from the past, the idea of sabotaging their plans seemed like an opportunity to regain some control and address unfinished business. Reluctantly, I agreed to consider the plan. The notion of revenge was tempting, but I knew I needed to approach the situation strategically and carefully. I began to gather information about Laura and Chris's new venture, analyzing their business strategies and identifying potential weaknesses. My investigation revealed several concerning practices. They were using questionable tactics to gain market share, including manipulating competitive bids and exploiting insider information. It was clear that their approach was not only unethical but also potentially illegal. With the information in hand, I began to devise a strategy to undermine their plans. I coordinated with Thomas and Mark to develop a plan that would expose the unethical practices and create enough disruption to hinder their launch. The goal was not just to seek revenge but to ensure that their business faced consequences for their actions. We executed the plan meticulously. We leaked credible evidence of their unethical practices to local media and regulatory authorities, creating a stir in the business community. The resulting scrutiny put immense pressure on Laura and Chris, forcing them to address the allegations and face potential legal repercussions. The fallout was significant. Their launch was delayed, and the negative publicity damaged their reputation. It was clear that our efforts had made a considerable impact, and their plans were now in jeopardy. Despite the satisfaction of seeing their plans falter, I felt a complex mix of emotions. The revenge had been satisfying, but it also served as a reminder of the unresolved issues from the past. I had hoped to leave those conflicts behind, but their resurgence had forced me to confront them once more. As the situation unfolded, I focused on maintaining the momentum of my own ventures. The app project with Mark and Jessica continued to progress successfully, and our efforts to make a positive impact remained unwavering. I knew that my primary focus should be on building a future based on integrity and collaboration. With the sabotage plan completed and the immediate threat addressed, I took some time to reflect on the journey that had brought me here. The twists and turns had been numerous, and the challenges had tested my resilience. However, each experience had contributed to my growth and understanding. The future held promise and potential, and I was determined to embrace it with a clear and focused mind. The past had its place, but it was time to move forward and continue building a life filled with purpose and achievement. As I looked ahead, I felt a renewed sense of determination and optimism. The journey had taught me valuable lessons, and I was ready to face whatever came next with confidence and hope. The road ahead was filled with opportunities, and I was eager to explore them and create a future that was both meaningful and fulfilling. With Laura and Chris's new venture facing significant setbacks and my own projects thriving, I began to feel a sense of normalcy and control returning to my life. The unexpected twist of sabotaging their plans had given me a strange sense of satisfaction, but I knew that my focus needed to remain on the positive impact I was creating through my work. One crisp autumn morning, while preparing for a presentation on our app's impact, I received an unexpected phone call. It was from a private investigator named Laura Stevens. She introduced herself and mentioned that she had been hired by an anonymous client to look into my background. The call was both puzzling and unsettling. Laura explained that her client had been concerned about potential conflicts of interest and wanted to ensure that there were no unresolved issues that could affect ongoing business ventures. I was taken aback, as I had no idea who might have initiated such an investigation or why. Laura assured me that her client was simply being cautious and that the investigation was standard procedure for high-stakes ventures. Despite her assurances, I felt a sense of unease. The thought of someone probing into my past and potentially uncovering details I had tried to leave behind was unsettling. Determined to address the situation head-on, I agreed to meet Laura Stevens in person to discuss the investigation and understand her client's concerns. We arranged to meet at a quiet cafe, where we could have a candid conversation without interruptions. When we met, Laura was professional and straightforward. She provided me with a detailed overview of the investigation, explaining that her client was conducting due diligence on all significant players in the industry. The focus was on ensuring transparency and integrity in all business dealings. As we talked, Laura revealed that her client was none other than Alexander Hayes, the philanthropist who had invested in my project. The revelation was both surprising and reassuring. Alexander's commitment to ethical practices and transparency aligned with my own values, and it made sense that he would want to ensure that all aspects of the venture were above board. Laura's investigation had not uncovered any wrongdoing on my part, and she confirmed that everything in my background was in order. The investigation was simply a precautionary measure to uphold Alexander's standards of integrity. I felt a sense of relief and gratitude, knowing that the concerns were addressed and that Alexander's support was grounded in trust and transparency. With the matter resolved, I returned to focusing on my projects and the exciting developments on the horizon. The app project with Mark and Jessica was nearing its official launch, and the feedback from test users was overwhelmingly positive. We were on track to make a significant impact with the app, and the anticipation of its release was palpable. In the midst of these developments, I received another surprise: an invitation to a conference where Alexander Hayes would be speaking about his philanthropic vision and the future of social impact. The conference was an opportunity to learn from influential leaders in the field and to showcase our project to a wider audience. The event was held at a prestigious venue, and the atmosphere was charged with enthusiasm and innovation. Alexander's keynote speech was inspiring, highlighting the importance of ethical practices and the role of technology in driving positive change. His vision resonated with me, and it reinforced my commitment to our mission. As the conference progressed, I had the chance to network with other attendees and explore potential collaborations. The connections made at the event opened doors to new opportunities and ideas, further enriching my professional journey. The launch of our app was a success, and the positive impact it was having on underserved communities was evident. The project continued to gain recognition and support, and the collaboration with Mark, Jessica, and Alexander proved to be both fruitful and fulfilling. Reflecting on the recent events, I realized that the journey had been one of unexpected twists and turns, but each experience had contributed to a deeper understanding of my path. The challenges and successes had shaped my perspective and strengthened my resolve. As I looked to the future, I embraced the opportunities that lay ahead with a renewed sense of purpose and optimism. The road had been paved with both triumphs and trials, and I was ready to continue building a life that was both meaningful and impactful. The story of my journey was far from over, and I approached each new chapter with excitement and hope. The lessons learned and the connections made had laid a strong foundation for a future filled with possibilities. And I was eager to explore them with confidence and determination. As I settled into the rhythm of my new life and the ongoing success of our ventures, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment and peace. The journey had been intense and transformative, but it had ultimately led me to a place of stability and purpose. Yet, as life tends to have its surprises, another unexpected development was on the horizon. One evening, as I was wrapping up work for the day, I received an email with the subject line, "Invitation to speak at a national conference." The message was from an organization that focused on technology and social impact, inviting me to speak about my experiences and the success of our app project. The opportunity to share my story and insights on a national stage was both exciting and humbling. I accepted the invitation with enthusiasm and began preparing for the conference. The event would be held in a city I had always wanted to visit, adding to my excitement. I planned my presentation carefully, aiming to convey not only the technical aspects of our project but also the personal journey that had led to its success. As the conference date approached, I traveled to the city, immersing myself in the vibrant atmosphere and the energy of the event. The conference venue was bustling with innovators, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders, all eager to explore the latest advancements and ideas in the field of technology and social impact. When it was finally my turn to speak, I took the stage with a mixture of nerves and excitement. I shared the story of our app's development, the challenges we faced, and the positive impact it was having on communities. I also spoke candidly about the personal journey that had led me to this point, including the trials and triumphs that had shaped my path. The audience responded with genuine interest and enthusiasm. The feedback and questions I received were thoughtful and engaging, and the connections I made with other attendees were both inspiring and valuable. It was clear that my story resonated with many, and the experience of sharing it was deeply gratifying. Following the conference, I found myself reflecting on the journey and the growth it had brought. The opportunities that had emerged from speaking at the event, including new collaborations and partnerships, further enriched my professional and personal life. I realized that the journey of transformation and success was ongoing, and each new experience added to the richness of my story. As I returned to my daily routine, I continued to focus on the projects and initiatives that were making a positive impact. The app project with Mark and Jessica continued to thrive, and we explored new features and expansions to further enhance its reach and effectiveness. In my personal life, I found new ways to stay connected with old friends and build new relationships. The sense of community and support I had cultivated was a source of joy and comfort. I also took time to explore personal interests and hobbies, finding balance and fulfillment in various aspects of life. Reflecting on the journey, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the experiences and lessons that had shaped my path. The unexpected twists and turns had led to a deeper understanding of myself and a clearer sense of purpose. The challenges had been transformative, and the successes had been rewarding. As I looked forward to the future, I approached it with optimism and excitement. The journey had taught me the value of resilience, integrity, and connection. I was eager to continue exploring new opportunities, making a positive impact, and embracing the possibilities that lay ahead. The road had been winding and full of surprises, but it had ultimately led to a place of fulfillment and growth. I was ready to continue this journey with confidence, knowing that each step forward was a chance to create a meaningful and impactful life. The story of my journey was one of transformation and discovery, and I was excited to see where it would lead next.